Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our webinar this morning, Mastering the Basics, DaVinci Part 1. We will be answering live chats, so feel free to post questions in the comments, and we'll also have a Q&A session afterwards. My name is Jessica Lissandro. I'm an account specialist here with DaVinci Lock, and I'll introduce Matt Canterbury, our account manager.
Yeah, thanks, Jess. My name is Matt. I'm an account manager with DaVinci, and I've been in the industry for going on 8 years now, and just over 2 of those here at DaVinci. So we're excited to share some operational insights and take some of your questions.
We just wanted to highlight a few upcoming events. We will be at the Upper Midwest Conference from August 11th through the 12th. And then part 2 of Mastering the Basics is going to be August 14th. We hope to see you all there. And following up in September, we will be at the SSA Fall Conference in Las Vegas. Feel free to come join, stop by our booth if you all are there.
Awesome. Well, just to kick it off, I'm going to kind of do a high-level overview of DaVinci Lock for those of you who aren't as familiar. I'm sure that there's people in here that are currently using DaVinci, and we're excited to share with you maybe some stuff you didn't know. But for those of you who are new to the platform and the product, the idea behind DaVinci Lock is that it's a simple automated access solution for tenants. And what that means is we're using a mechanical lock to provide automated access. So there's no battery, there's no Bluetooth, there's no internet that connects directly to the lock that you need to worry about. What we're essentially doing is storing and sending off the 8-digit serial number and unlock code to the tenant when they make a payment. So in this kind of webinar, what we're going to do is cover the core value of DaVinci, and that would be the contactless lock management for automated access. And then we're going to have enhanced security and operational efficiency. So we're going to cover all of these things, but just to give like some actual kind of real world examples of how this works, the contactless rentals would be something like I put a DaVinci Lock on my overlocked units, and when that tenant makes their delinquency payment, instead of me having to go to the unit and unlock it with a key, instead of the tenant having to wait either till the next business day or for you to get out there to the door, they're going to receive a text and an email. Thanks for your payment. Your lock code is 1234. Have a nice day. They can get right into the unit. It's a good experience for them. It's easier for you operationally. Same thing goes for like a vacant rental. So if somebody rents a unit online, no more having to use like breakaway tags or just leaving the door open. That tenant is going to get instant access to that door, and you don't have to worry about things like burrowing, which is when people break into customer units through your vacant units, or maybe somebody moves out and they want to leave a mattress in the empty unit across the aisle. We can kind of avoid these kind of everyday pain points with DaVinci Locks on your vacants. So those are some real world examples of contactless and automated lock management. In terms of enhanced security, something that I kind of already mentioned, if your vacant doors are secured, then people can't get into them, and except for the people that should, right? So somebody who's rented a unit, they are going to get access for that, which is what we want. And in terms of operational efficiency, these kind of messages that are going out passively gives you some time back to do some other things on the property that are going to generate revenue. So instead of telling people what their lock codes are or walking out to the unit with keys, you can focus on curb appeal or collection calls or whatever makes sense in terms of your day-to-day operations. So those are going to be like the 3 kind of core value points of just DaVinci Lock, standalone platform, locks on units, and we can automate a lot of those kind of like daily tasks.
Matt, can you give us an example of how the automation can help streamline a facility's day-to-day process?
Yeah, well, and something that I kind of went over is giving you time back to focus on other things. What it's going to do is just, I don't need to worry about leaving the property to go to the bank or, going out to another side of the property to make sure that the curb looks nice. These things are just happening passively. The tenant gets instant access. So in terms of how does it impact like day to day, it's a better experience for tenants. and it's a better experience for you. That's like the overall goal that we're hoping to achieve with it.
Thank you.
Talking about the evolution of DaVinci, for people that have been using DaVinci for a long time now, it probably started as just an overlocking solution. For that reason, I was a site manager for years, and the amount of times that I had to drive back to the site to let somebody in because they made a payment right after I left, or something like that. It wasn't fun for me, and it wasn't fun for the tenant, even though they got access the same day. They were still sitting there waiting for me, so it's kind of awkward. So when this was kind of rolled out, it just made sense for a lot of people. I can, just put it on my doors and I don't have to go back. It's happening from there. But now what we've kind of seen is you can put different locks on every unit for different reasons. So I put, red locks on for overlocks in some cases. I can put locks on vacant doors, and whenever people move into those units, that lock can simply become their lock. They don't have to buy one. You can provide it for them. It's already assigned. And even that process is automated. So we'll talk about that a little bit in this presentation as well, because we've come a long way from just locks on doors. And there's a lot of benefits from using some of our other statuses. So that's something that's exciting to share.
Have you seen how this transition kind of looks like for both operators and tenants?
Yeah, speaking from experience, we've done like facility conversions where you change locks to like maybe something like a cylinder lock. It's not a fun process for an operator or for a tenant because you have to go through the kind of like legal hoops, like lease language and things like that. What we're seeing a lot of people do is I'm just going to put these on new rentals only. It's easy to kind of implement and phase out. That seems to be a really successful strategy that we're seeing. In terms of how does this drive profit? Because at the end of the day, we want an access solution that's ideal for tenants. It's ideal for you as an operator, but what does it take to get into it? It's an expense, upfront that we want to justify. And so something that we've seen a lot of operators do to drive profit is a small smart tech fee for new rentals. It's easier to implement for those new move-ins, like we were just talking about. But the idea is if I can implement a small recurring fee for those renters that are utilizing DaVinci, that are utilizing some of the automation, this is not just a fee that is kind of tacked on for nothing. The idea is that it's going to provide value. So I'm paying a couple extra dollars a month. And this is going to give me instant access for things that I want on site, whether there's a manager there or it's fully remote. I have these kind of like instant access solutions. So that's going to be probably the most effective way to do it, is to implement a small tech fee per month. And then apply it to new rentals only. You could also potentially apply it retroactively to all tenants. We've seen people do that. There's certainly ways to do both, but I think the most important thing is kind of communication and tenant education with what are the benefits of this, because anybody could say I'm tacking on a tech fee or a smart fee. And if there's no value, then that's just going to cause friction. And so I think with the ability for people to actually see what the value is, oh, I don't have to wait on you. I just get instant access. I make a payment, I get the code. If I forgot the code, instant access through things like Tenant Connect or text to release, which we'll talk about. But it just seems to be a great solution for tenants. And then in terms of ROI, that's something that we can also touch on a little bit. So if we were to, start by implementing a small, tech fee for new move-ins only, what does that look like in terms of generating revenue? Well, let's say that we start with, a fee of like $5.99 or $6, just to make it a little bit easier. If you're going to have, 20 rentals a month, this is going to, compound into the ability to pay for the DaVinci subscription and generate some revenue ultimately. And again, the idea is I don't have to kind of put a burden on existing tenants. but I'm able to capture that revenue and provide a good experience for new tenants. And I think, some of the best feedback that we've gotten so far is there really isn't a lot of pushback on this from new renters. And that's because it's a competitive market, but at the same time, not needing to purchase a lock. I think something that we forget now in 2025, a lock from the hardware store is like $25 or $30. It's not, $10 anymore. So the ability to essentially rent a lock and get access to some of those features is a really good value. Yeah. So that's something to keep in mind when you implement these fees. It's going to kind of add up to the point where not only are you utilizing DaVinci services and providing a good experience, but you're generating revenue on top. And so that's our goal, and we've seen a lot of success with that. And we're kind of glad to chat through what that could look like for you, either as a current operator or a new customer. Let's see. Let's talk about user roles. So for those of you using the platform, you might be familiar, but I'll explain some of the kind of key differences between the roles. Admin is just what it sounds like, that you're the site administrator. You have, pretty much unfiltered access to most of the things in the platform that you want to customize and work with. Admins will have the ability to, customize our notifications and automations, which we'll kind of go through here in a second. Next status is going to be personnel. This is going to be your kind of like everyday user, maybe a site manager, boots on the ground. These individuals will have access to, assigning locks, changing lock codes, transferring locks from facility to facility. Restricted personnel. This one is going to be very close to the same permissions as personnel, with one, major exception. They are not able to see unlock codes if they're assigned to tenants specifically. And I believe auctions as well. The restricted personnel will not have access to unlock codes for certain statuses that maybe we want to provide a little more separation there. Something else is important to note for anybody who's looking at restricted codes. We do have logs that are, we're tracking who is looking at these unlock codes for reporting purposes. And we'll kind of go through that a little bit later. What kind of reporting do we offer? And it's kind of interesting because we can aggregate, like who's looking at what codes, were they supposed to be, and so we'll kind of cover that. But moving on to call center agent, this role is really helpful for a virtual, agent, somebody who's not on site but is kind of they're on the phone with the tenant. Maybe they're just getting the serial number of that lock relayed to them live, and they can kind of determine the status of that lock should the person on the phone get that code, and kind of go from there. So. And then the last status is going to be the vendor status. This is a new one that's really cool. I can go into the platform. I can assign a lock as a vendor status. I can give one of my vendors a DaVinci login. And when they log into my platform, the only thing that they're going to see is that DaVinci Lock code for that specific thing. So if it's like a construction company and I have materials in a unit and I want to give them access to that, but I don't want them to see unlock codes for, other lock statuses or, like my tenants, like I don't want vendors to see that. They can still get the access that they need that you've kind of set up for them without having to call you or contact you. They just sign in, they have access to that unit with those materials. So it's really streamlined. And I'd like to give a shout out to Scott. Scott had a great message in here, posting signs with information about DaVinci, QR codes, things like that. It's more than helpful for the tenants on site. And we like to think about it as like when you go to a hotel and you check into a hotel, nobody walks you to your room. There's really clear and concise signage that guides you all the way there. And that's usually what makes it a positive experience. So thanks a lot, Scott. All right. Next, I think we're going to give a little overview on the mobile app. So, You'd be surprised how many people I talk to that still don't know that we have a mobile app. They've been using our website for years, and the mobile app is fantastic for. I like to say when you're out in the field, when you're on site, it's really great because I can scan locks. I can assign locks to units that are out on the property. I don't have to do everything in my office and then keep track of which lock is going on which door with Post-it notes. I've seen it all. So I would highly recommend the mobile app for things that are out in the field. And just to quickly touch on some of the in-app features, the QR code bulk lock activation is something new that we're pretty proud of. No more, scanning one lock at a time for most of our locks. We have new QR coded boxes that we're shipping in, so you can do 10 at a time. Should be much faster to get started. Assigning and editing locks, that's kind of what I was just highlighting. Scanning each individual lock with your phone is also possible. So what I would recommend when putting locks on doors, you go to the units, you have all of your locks and they're, consider them a blank slate. I could just scan a lock. I'm putting this one on unit number 5, move on to number 6, scan it, assign it. It's all syncing with your software in real time, ideally. And so that makes it super easy to assign and edit them. You can also transfer locks from property to property. So if I'm in that process of trying to assign one and I realize it's assigned to another property across town, no worries. I just transfer it to the property that I'm at, get it on the door. Unit tasks is another thing. You always want to consider your software as the source of truth, but we can kind of highlight, hey, these units appear to be delinquent, whether it's 1 day or 10 days. Do you want to put a DaVinci Lock on it, or something like that? So you can kind of use that as a quick shortcut to assign them.
And if anyone does not have the mobile app downloaded, you can scan that QR code in the corner and get it downloaded.
That's right. All right, the web portal. This is something that I think most people are familiar with by now. And I'll kind of just give a quick run through of, assuming that someone's never used this before. Please keep in mind, like up top, we have a great support system. We have a team that can help in most instances in terms of technical issues that we're not able to resolve with our help desk. But I highly recommend you visit the help desk. We have some articles that our team has worked hard on that might resolve some, very kind of like introductory issues. It's like, hey, like what role should I assign this for what permissions? Some of the things that I was covering earlier, we have a whole bunch of articles that outline that stuff. And you'll see it up at the top there, help desk. You can submit a support ticket. But moving on down the way, we have the quick lock search. And this is really good for if you have a lock, you have a serial number, but you're not sure what the status is or where it should be. You can just search the serial number and it'll pop up all the information that you want to see on that lock. And this is actually kind of ties back to that call center role, because this is some of the limited functionality that a call center agent will have in our platform. We're assuming that you've already verified the person on the phone should give you the serial number, and you can just easily look it up right here in the quick search. Down below on the dashboard page, we're going to kind of give a summary of your integrations. Good is an indicator that we have solid credentials with the FMS. If it's anything but green, you might want to talk to us just to make sure there's not a bigger problem. But yeah, that's going to be the main dashboard page. And next we'll go kind of check out the locks page. So the locks page is going to give you just a full kind of summary of all of the locks. And it's sorted by color now, which is awesome. This was a big request for quite some time. But for those of you who don't know, on the manage locks page, you can sort, you can filter. I can kind of make things like a little more filter down to like more relevant for me at that time. Am I looking for just overlocks? Am I looking for locks that were assigned most recently? Or maybe I want to go back and look at vacant units that haven't been touched in 2 years. Maybe we need to re-clean those. Things like that. We can kind of filter and sort, and you can also print and export those. So Down at the bottom, you'll see that I can print or export, and it is printing and exporting what you filtered. So keep that in mind. If you're ever missing stuff on your prints and exports, make sure you don't have any active filters. But yeah, there's a lot of great stuff here that you can do. I think it'll even show the color of the lock in the exports. So like the serial number will be that specific lock color, which is kind of cool. Let's see. So let's move on to the team. This is pretty straightforward, but there's a little bit of nuance here. I can add team members to my company account, but I can also dictate what facilities do I want these team members to have access to. Should they have access to all of them? Should they just have access to like one or two? You can kind of customize this, make sure that people have the appropriate permissions, just in general, but also for specific facilities. So that's going to be something that it might seem obvious, but a lot of people don't realize you can kind of fragment your operation like that, which could be helpful. Whenever you add a team member, I'll also it will send you an email to create a password. So if you're trying to add somebody and they can't log in, just make sure they've gotten the email, whether it's to their normal inbox or spam. And if you still have issues, we can help with that. Yeah. Let's move on to facilities. This is going to give me a summary of the facility info, the address. Is it integrated? If so, is that a solid integration like we talked about, the credentials? So this is going to vary depending on what facility platform you use. So this is something that we definitely go over during our onboarding. It would be with Jess or myself. If you're new to DaVinci, we'll be back on this screen soon enough, and we'll take a look at some of the advanced facility features. Automations. This is the part that we're really excited about, and I think that you all should be too, because this is where we're really able to kind of make things more passive, and I don't have to kind of work on each individual lock status. It's just happening because I set it up that way. So in order from left to right, well, delinquencies, we have the ability to customize the delinquent message, text, and email. So what that means is maybe for the delinquency message, I'd like to say something like, hey, thanks for making your payment. You were past due. There's a red lock on your unit. Please return the lock to avoid a $20 fee, or something like that. You can make it a little more firm and, please return the lock, that kind of thing, whatever you'd like to say. Whereas maybe my new move-in messages, I'd like to customize those to be a little more warm and friendly. Thanks for moving in. We appreciate your business. Please leave us a review. You can add any kind of verbiage or links that you'd like to add in there. And again, we're customizing SMS and the text message, email message separately here. So maybe I want my text messages to be a little shorter, more concise, so people read them. And I want the email to have some more, links, things like that. And so, yeah, we can absolutely do that. Text to release. This is something that we have that it's either engraved on our locks, or it's something that you can set up with. We have stickers that you can put on existing locks, but with the right service tier and integration, we can actually text your tenants retroactively what their unlock code is after the fact. So let's say that they've moved in, they got the message, but something happened, they deleted it, and now they need it again. Well, they can just simply text us, and we will text them the code right back. That is, of course, unless they're delinquent or something. That means they might get the rejected message, like, hey, we'd love to give you this code, but we think you need to go pay your balance first. And you can even put a link in there where they can, be directed to pay. So yeah, that's going to be some of like the automated messages. And yeah, I'd love to, Scott, you have another great question that I'd love to kind of touch on real quick because it is important. If we go back to the main locks page, Scott wanted to ask us, finding out how can we change the lock code on physical locks. This is something that's possible in our platform. You do have to have the current combination to change them. It's not something that you can change remotely. Just to be clear, it's not a battery operated lock, so we don't have any connectivity. But Scott, to answer your question, if the lock is set to the available status, and that's important, it can't be assigned to a unit. I can come in here and edit that lock code to say, whatever I want. And when I do that and save the change or try to save the changes, it's going to pop up with a message that is kind of important. It's going to say, hey, you must change the lock physically as well. And this is because it's a two-step process. And so I'm not sure if it's actually going to pop up for Jess's screen share, but the warning is helpful because if you change it in the software but not on the lock or vice versa, we're going to have a mix-up somewhere. I always recommend changing the lock code in the software because it'll keep a record of both. You'll see what the old code was. You'll see what the new code that you wanted was. Okay, there it is. So we do get the pop-up. Got to remember to change it in both. And what are the benefits of this? Well, if I'm putting a delinquent lock on the same people every month, as sometimes that's the way it goes, maybe I want to make sure I'm not giving them the same lock with the same code. We also have a pretty good summary in the lock logs. Like I can see if I've assigned a lock to a specific unit before. I can see if I've changed the code. So the web portal is really good for more administrative stuff. I know we talked about mobile app is good for when you're on site and you're assigning locks to doors. The website is really good for more of like administrative. I want to look at my logs. I want to look at my reporting. So hopefully, Scott, that helps in terms of changing the lock code. You can do it. It's a simple process for you as an operator. It's just a two-step process to ensure that it's working as intended. And if anybody has any questions like this that come up as you're using it after the call, we encourage you to connect with our team or Jess or myself, and we will definitely take care of you on that. Awesome. And sorry to jump around. I'll answer as many questions as we can too after this. So this is great, guys. I really appreciate them. In terms of automations, this is going to be something that is really helpful for okay, if I want every vacant rental to be converted to, like a tenant is using the lock, I can change that automation here. If I want every vacant to go back to the Dropbox automatically, I could make that adjustment here. The default for overlocks is that it'll go back to the Dropbox. Hopefully not too many of your tenants are keeping your overlocks, but these are all the statuses there. So you can customize those. And Rhonda, great question. For anything that's not a tenant unit, like something internal, like a company unit or an electrical room, Jess, if we hop back to the lock statuses, I would highly recommend other, as Scott mentioned. And Scott, if you need a job, I think that I'll have to get you on the team over here. You're doing good work. We highly recommend the other for this because I can make a custom label. So you can type in anything you like. It's not something that we send notifications out for. In fact, to be totally clear, the only notifications that we'll send out to tenants automatically is for a vacant and an overlocked unit. And then Rhonda, if you're getting a prompt to assign it to a specific unit, we'll have to check and see what integration you have set up. So we should just be able to type it in. I will say if you're on the mobile app, you might not be able to type it in like you can on the website, but it should be pretty easy to set up. So Rhonda, if we could connect after the call, we could definitely make sure that it's working for you. But assign vacant, assign to overlock for automations, and assign to other for anything that's not a unit, except for a Dropbox. I'll say if you want to assign a lock to a Dropbox, you can put that on too. And if you have multiple Dropboxes, I believe you can put a label on the Dropboxes too. Like if I have one by the front gate, one by the back office, I should be able to label those as well. So We have a lot of different lock statuses, and it could seem overwhelming if you're going to go assign a lock. But the good news is that it's very, very applicable to your situation. Like, just ask yourself, what do I need to do? Do I want my vacant to get a code? I'm going to assign it to a vacant. Do I want my delinquencies to get the code? I'm going to assign it as an overlock. I think some of the interesting ones, like assigned auction, is an interesting status because we will not send an unlock code to anybody who's in an auction status. That's intentional. We want you to have the autonomy to kind of navigate that yourself. If you do want an auction person to get the code automatically, we would recommend leaving it as assigned delinquent. But one of the big problems that we ran into was auction buyer pays for the unit. We get a trigger and we send the code to the tenant. So that's not good. We don't want that. So the auction status is going to be more of like a manual process to navigate. But again, in our help desk, we have a whole list of lock statuses and what they kind of mean. And if you ever have questions, that's what Jess and I are here for, to make sure you have like everything set up exactly how you want it. So yeah, great questions, Scott, Ron. I really appreciate you pointing those out. And I think one of the other things that we can talk about real quick while we're on this locks page, our process returned report. Jess, if we want to go to that, the return to Dropbox status, it doesn't necessarily mean that the lock is in the Dropbox, because it's not a smart lock. We don't have a way to know if it's physically in there, but that is where we're expecting it to be. So if you have a lock that is not in the Dropbox and it's not still on the unit, well, maybe we need to charge that tenant for a lock, right? But this report is kind of cool because I can see every lock that should be in my box. I can retrieve all the locks from my box, and I could kind of go through and mark what's their status. Like, hey, great, these 5, I can make them available for use again. But this guy in unit number 1002, he might have taken our lock. We need to have a conversation with him. And then I can send a report to my manager too. If I want, I could say, hey, I'm going to send this email to Jess, process and send. She'll get an email that kind of summarizes which locks were returned, which locks were not. So it's kind of cool. You don't have to use this, but it's there. So I wanted to highlight it. I could just as easily go through and, mark every lock as available again. Or we can set it up in those automations. So good segue back to the automations tab there. So those lock statuses, just to reiterate, because I started bouncing around a little bit, the lock statuses, we can change it to the behavior that happens after a payment on a vacant unit and an overlocked unit. And so something else that Jess and I covered during the onboarding is, what is the tenant experience that you'd like to set up? What is the flow? And then we can just help make that, happen in actuality. So yeah, and there's a lot of great questions. So I'll just move on real quick to the reports. And then what we'll do is circle back and just kind of cover any questions in detail. So I really appreciate all the questions, everyone. We will definitely get to them. Reporting is something that's new, and we're excited about it. View combination requests. This is going to give me insight into who is looking at codes that are hidden. I mentioned earlier, tenant using lock, auction status. We can hide the code from certain permissions with this. But if I do have permission and I want to see the code, it's going to record that I'm doing that. It's going to show me, who is looking at most locks, and then like, what is the status of those locks? Was I supposed to see the code for unit number 5? Maybe so. It was an auction inventory or something like that. Or there was a funny smell in the unit and we notified the tenant. This kind of stuff happens. You can access the units. It's easy, but we have a record of it. We have some kind of log for tenant security. So this is this report. And like everything, that we're tracking in our platform, or most things, we can export and print them. If we go back to the reports overview, the next thing that we'll look at is the automated messages. So this is probably the bulk of our, support tickets. It's like, hey, did this person get a code? Did that person get an email? They said they didn't, but here we have it. A full breakdown of which unlock codes were sent, which ones did, failed for some reason. And this actually ends up being helpful for a lot of reasons, because maybe we can tell that they have like the wrong email. Sometimes you'd be surprised how many times Gmail is misspelled. We see that here. And then are they using a landline as the phone number that we're trying to text? So yeah, that's going to be helpful here for the auto messaging report. So before you submit a support ticket asking for details on like, did the tenant receive it, you can just instantly verify it for yourself. And if there's something you're still not sure about, that's what we're there to help for. So, but yeah, that's going to be the reporting there. And there's a lot of dashboard features that I think we'll be able to kind of jump back to with the questions, because we're getting some great questions. But we'll just move on to the presentation real quick. Exporting that lock list, like I was talking about. In Excel, we have a lot of capability here too. So I could export my whole lock list, all facilities, and then I can kind of filter and sort it down that way if you'd prefer to do that as opposed to within our platform. So it's really flexible. I just like to highlight that for people that are, really, really into Excel. There's a lot of people out there that appreciate, all the data and breakdowns. So Excel reporting is really great, easy to use. And then I think next we're going to talk about text release, which I highlighted how to customize the message. But for those of you who aren't familiar with what it is, just a high level view, it's exactly what it sounds like. I text the phone number, code comes back to me, I unlock the lock. Should be that easy. But as we saw in a lot of cases, maybe I'm past due on my unit, but I followed somebody through the gate, made it all the way to my door. The unit is the last line of defense. To avoid a phone call to me as an operator, I have the lock that could just provide the code with a simple text. So that's the idea. I just text for the code. I can open it. Easy as that. So text to release is a great feature. And again, you can get the engraved locks like we're showing here, but you can also get stickers for previously purchased locks. So I think they're like less than 10 cents on our store page. So could be a good addition, but definitely chat with a team member to ensure that you have text to release capabilities, because we want to be integrated and with the appropriate platforms. So, all right, physical tools, lock drop boxes. We talked about how to assign them to in the lock statuses, but what are they? How many do you need? These are common questions. Usually just one or two in high traffic areas is all that you need. We sell the lock boxes. We have decals that say return locks here. You don't want people to put mail or money in your drop boxes. They might get kind of like weather worn. So it just holds locks. The ones that we sell, we recommend. And I think they're $54 from our store page. Signage, which again, just shout out to Scott. Like, this stuff is huge. We have a partnership with a sign vendor, and we can create you some really great custom signs now. We recommend QR codes. We generate QR codes in Tenant Connect, which we will talk more about in the next webinar that we host. It'll focus a little more on like advanced features and functionality. But signage is something that is going to just reduce a lot of friction. It's going to customize the your specific tenant flow, the ideal flow. Awesome.
Thanks, Matt. We will take some time to answer some questions from the chat now.
Awesome. Okay. So if a delinquent customer pays, when does their unit number appear under the remove overlock on the DaVinci app? Or is this only available on our particular tier? That's a great question. So I think that when the tenant pays remove overlock, what this is going to be is as soon as we sync it up with the facility is probably when it should. But that might be dependent on your service tier and the FMS that you're using. If it's not showing up with a sync and you're actively integrated, I'd recommend connecting with one of us live so we can just take a look and make sure there isn't some other underlying issue. But usually pretty quick is the short answer. And if it's storage, it should be almost immediate. So highly dependent on the FMS and your service tier. Awesome. Betty asks, should the app and the website communicate with each other? I continue to have the issue of updating a lock in the app and it does not update on the website. I think something that's important to note about the app is we have a sync button on there, and if you definitely want to use that before you discount it, because one of the issues with a mobile app is if I go into a climate control building, I don't have any service, I don't have any internet, and I'm making changes on the app. It's not gonna sync in real time, and then if I leave, it might lose all of my progress. So I think one of the biggest opportunities that we have is like educating people on make your assignments, get out to where you have a signal, and do a manual sync just to ensure it will automatically sync after a little bit of time since we queue it up like that. But that's probably like the biggest issue that I've seen is that there's a manual sync option that isn't utilized, and it's good. It's a good habit just to press it. If there's like technical support issues that, everything that I'm saying is not resolving your issue, my goal would be to personally connect with you and dig into it a little more, because we want this stuff to be easy. So just reach out to us after, and we can make sure that that's exactly how it is working. Awesome. Donna asks, are these signs provided or do we need to get our own? So we do have the ability to create signs for you. We can even put in our tenant connect QRs that we can generate for you. But we do have a lot of people that prefer to work with a local vendor that they've been working with. So it's completely up to you. However, I might be biased. Our signs are the best. You should definitely work with us on getting your signs. So.
Right. Well, thank you guys. For any of the questions that we did not get to in this webinar, we will follow up with you all individually for those answers. And I just wanted to remind you, we will have part 2 coming in a few weeks, so feel free to keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, thank you all so much for taking the time to join us. And again, I'm serious. If you have questions that I didn't answer for you and you want to chat, please feel free to contact us directly.
Thank you all.